I'm Ryan O'Doud, and you're listening to Ryan's Audiobooks on the Issues Magazine YouTube channel. Today I continue with Section 9.6 of The Incarnation of Ahriman by Rudolph Steiner. Lecture 3, Dornach, 1st of November, 1919. When social questions are discussed from a spiritual scientific point of view, this really is not done out of any subjective motive or impulse. Everything is based upon observation of the evolution of humanity and of what the forces underlying that evolution demand of us now and in the immediate future. To reveal the deepest impulses working at the present time is not a congenial task, for people nowadays have little inclination to enter into such matters in the spirit of earnest and profound inquiry. But our age calls for this profound earnestness wherever the affairs of humanity are concerned, above all for the discarding of prejudices and preconceptions. Today, therefore, I shall put before you certain deeper aspects of matters to which reference has often been made. Once again, it is necessary to survey a rather lengthy period in the life of humanity. As you know, we distinguish the present epoch from other epochs, reckoning that it began in the middle of the 15th century A.D. We speak of it as the fifth post-Atlantean epoch, distinguishing it from the previous epoch, which began in the 8th century B.C. and is called the Greco-Latin epoch, after the peoples responsible for its culture. It was preceded by the epoch of Egypto-Chaldean civilization. When we come to consider the Egypto-Chaldean epoch, we find that the records of ordinary history break down. Even with the help of accessible Egyptian and Chaldean lore, external evidence does not carry us very far back in the history of humanity. But it's not possible to grasp what is of importance for the present time unless we understand the intrinsic characteristics of that third post-Atlantean epoch of culture. You are certainly aware that in the ordinary history of that ancient time, all civilization, all culture, in the then known world, goes by the name of paganism. Like an oasis, Hebraic culture arises in its midst as its preparation for Christianity. But disregarding for the moment this Jewish culture which differed so fundamentally from the other forms of pre-Christian civilization, let us turn our attention to paganism. Its special characteristic may be said to lie in its wisdom and its deep insight into the things and processes of the world. The knowledge contained in paganism had its source in the ancient mysteries, and although according to modern scholarship it bears a mythical pictorial character, it must be emphasized that all the imagery, all the pictures which have come down to posterity from this ancient paganism are the fruits of profound insight. Recalling the many treasures of this supersensible lore which we have been endeavored to bring to light, it will be obvious that here we have to do with a primeval wisdom, a wisdom underlying all the thinking, all the perceptions and feelings of these ancient people. A kind of echo of this primeval wisdom, a tradition in which it was enshrined, survived here and there in secret societies, actually in a healthy form, until the middle of the 18th century and at the beginning of the 19th. In the 19th century, the source ran dry, and such vestiges as remain have passed into the hands of isolated groups and certain nationalities in particular. And what is the possession of ordinary secret societies today can no longer be regarded as wholesome or as genuine tradition of the old pagan wisdom. Now, this ancient wisdom has one particular characteristic which it is vital to remain aware of. It is one characteristic on account of which Judaism, the smaller current then making preparation for Christianity, had to be introduced into the broader stream of paganism as a kind of oasis. In this ancient paganism is, rightly understood, it will be found to contain sublime, deeply penetrating wisdom, but no moral impulses for human action. These impulses were not really essential to humanity, for unlike what now passes as human knowledge, human insight, this old pagan wisdom gave one the feeling of being embedded in the whole cosmos. People moving about the earth not only felt themselves composed of the substances and forces present around them in earthly life, in the mineral, plant, and animal kingdoms, but they felt that the forces operating, for example, in the movements of the stars and the sun were playing into them. This feeling of being a member of the whole cosmos was not a mere abstraction, for they receive from the mystery schools and centers directives based on the laws of the stars to guide their actions and whole conduct of life. This ancient star wisdom was in no way akin to the arithmetical astrology sometimes considered valuable today, but it was a wisdom noticed by the initiates in a way that gave rise to impulses for individual action and conduct. Not only did human beings feel safe and secure within the all-prevailing wisdom of the cosmos, but those whom they recognized as initiates of the mysteries imparted this wisdom in directives for their actions, from morning till evening on given days of the year. Yet neither Chaldean nor Egyptian wisdom contained a single moral impulse from what had been imparted by the initiates in this way. The moral impulse, in its real sense, was prepared by Judaism and then further developed in Christianity. We are bound to ask why this sublime pagan wisdom, although it contained no moral impulse, was able, for example in ancient Greece, to come to flower in such beauty of art and grandeur of philosophy. If we were to go much further back, to a time more than 3,000 years before the Christian era, we should find that together with the promptings of wisdom there did come a moral impulse, that the moral principles, the ethics needed by these people of old were contained in this wisdom. But a specific ethos, a specific moral impulse that, as came with Christianity, was not an integral part of paganism. Why was this? It was because through the millennia directly preceding Christianity, this pagan wisdom was inspired from a place far away in Asia, inspired by a remarkable being who had been incarnated in the distant East in the 3rd millennium before Christ, namely Lucifer. To the many things we have learned about the evolution of humanity, this knowledge too must be added. That just as there was an incarnation which culminated in Golgotha, the incarnation of Christ in the man Jesus of Nazareth, there was an actual incarnation of Lucifer in far-off Asia in the 3rd millennium BC. And the source of inspiration for much ancient culture was what can only be described as an earthly incarnation of Lucifer, in a man of flesh and blood. Even Christianity, even the mystery of Golgotha as enacted among human beings, was understood at first by the only means then available, namely the ancient Luciferic wisdom. The one-sidedness of the gnosis, for all its amazing profundity, stems from the influence that had spread from this Lucifer incarnation throughout the ancient world. The significance of the mystery of Golgotha cannot be fully grasped without the knowledge that Lucifer had incarnated rather less than 3,000 years previously. The Christ incarnation balanced and redressed the one-sided nature of Luciferic inspiration. With this Christ incarnation came the impulse for the education and development of European civilization and its American offshoot. But since the middle of the 15th century, since the impulse for the development of individuality, of personality, has been at work, this phase of evolution has also contained certain forces that are preparing for the incarnation of another supersensible being. Just as there was an incarnation of Lucifer in the flesh and an incarnation of Christ in the flesh, so before only a part of the 3rd millennium of the post-Christian era has elapsed, will there be in the West an actual incarnation of Ahriman. Ahriman in the flesh. Humanity on earth cannot escape this incarnation of Ahriman. It is inevitable. But what matters is that people find the right approach and attitude toward it. Whenever a preparation is being made for such an incarnation, we must be alert to certain indicative trends in evolution. A being like Ahriman, who will incarnate in the West in time to come, prepares for this incarnation in advance. With a view to his incarnation on the earth, Ahriman guides certain forces in evolution in such a way that they may be of the great possible advantage to him. An evil would result were people to live on in a state of drowsy unawareness, unable to recognize certain phenomena in life as preparations for Ahriman's incarnation in the flesh. The right stance can be found only by recognizing in one or another series of events the preparation that is being made by Ahriman for his earthly existence. And the time has now come for individual human beings to know what tendencies and events around them are machinations of Ahriman, helping him to prepare for his approaching incarnation. It would undoubtedly be of the greatest benefit to Ahriman if he could succeed in preventing the vast majority of people from perceiving what conditions are favorable to him, if the vast majority of people were to regard these preparations for the Ahriman incarnation as progressive and good for evolution, if Ahriman were able to slink into a humanity unaware of his coming, that would gladden him most of all. It is for this reason that the occurrences and trends in which Ahriman is working for his future incarnation must be brought to light. Thus concludes Section 9.6 from Lecture 3 of the Incarnation of Ahriman. Next time we will pick up with 9.7, still in Lecture 3. I will see you then. Alam.